Welcome back to Small Town Sound, the podcast where we celebrate the people, programs, and the passion that make music education thrive in small towns across America. I'm your host, Steve Brown, and each episode we sit down with directors who are making an incredible impact, not only on their students, but their communities as well. Today's guest is someone who has built a tremendous program in Southern Illinois. Zach Smith is in his 8th year as director of bands at Waterloo High School, where he oversees everything from marching band, concert bands, jazz band, percussion ensemble, guitar, and music appreciation. Zach, thank you so much for being here.
It is my pleasure.
Your energy is awesome in person, but also like on social media. You have a big presence on TikTok and you're on Facebook a lot. And you whenever I read and watch your stuff, it's almost infectious of how much you seem to love music education.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I know, like, as we all know, there's so much stuff on social media, especially where it's just negative stuff all the time, and it's good to be plugged in and understand what's going on in the world. But I got so tired of myself seeing, directors, being negative about this, the news being negative about that. So I just try to make everything that I put out there like there's enough of that stuff. I want to break up that noise a little bit and just say, hey, like this is stuff that's going really well. We don't talk about the good stuff nearly enough. So I'm glad
Right.
that that message is getting across.
Absolutely. It's fun to watch you. So you grew
Appreciate
up
it.
and or you went to Prospect High School. Can you talk a little
Yes,
bit
sir.
about that program and maybe some influences that you had while you were there?
Yeah. So when I was at Prospect, I was fortunate to have two really, really great band directors. My first being Dave Morrison, Illinois State Teacher of the Year. Just he was the man with the plan. He knew what he was doing, and he was absolutely infectious on the podium. I remember coming in as a freshman. The common refrain of like, "Oh, I don't want to do high school band. I'm going to quit after 8th grade." Mom said, "Hey, do it for 1 year, and if you make it through a year and you don't like it, I'll let you quit." I told her, "Hey, I'll win that bet," and I did in a way. But I got into band my freshman year, and Dave was just so driven. He was so positive. He was so ready to go all the time. That I was like, well, I didn't know it could be like this. Like, junior high band and high school band are so similar in some ways and so different. And just seeing Dave and his passion for music, and the fact that he was able to be exacting and very, very demanding without being like cruel or mean or demeaning it had me hook, line, and sinker. So I had him, and then he retired at the end of my sophomore year. And then the new director, Chris Barnum, came in. He had worked with the school before, student taught with us, was a perfect fit, great guy. He was the one that took me from, hey, Zach, it's cool that you're interested in music to, hey, you need to like practice your trumpet and like, get better at using music fundamentals. You should probably take theory class. And so he was the one who kind of outfitted me with the tools to get where I wanted to go. He saw the kind of the passion and the energy and gave it a little bit more of direction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so you had a director that changed, kind of midway through your high school, which is very
Mhm.
interesting to me. Whenever I got into high school, I had a director that came after some not so successful s- you know careers, I guess. So there were two directors that were at Nashville for maybe a year or two each,
Mhm.
and that director was there my freshman year, and he completely changed my life. So you actually had two directors at during your stint at Prospect High School that were both very influential. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I also recognize, like, so many times when somebody has been at a place for so long that inevitably there's gonna be a drop or a change or culture, all that. And Chris did a really great job of coming in, meeting us where we were, listened to us about what we thought was important, and then started crafting it into making it his own from there. So I understand it could have very easily gone a very different way. And I might not have gotten that guidance and that understanding and that discipline from him that I would have needed otherwise. So I feel very fortunate that it worked out as well as it did.
Yeah, yeah. So from there, you went to Northern Illinois. Can you talk
Mhm.
a little bit about that experience?
So at Northern, I was there a little longer than most. Not necessarily for any bad reasons. I just got to school and I didn't know how to meet people. When you're in high school, the people you see every day it's because they're in your class. You have the same 7:30 to 3 o'clock schedule. But I studied under Dr. Mark Ponzo. He was exacting as well. He's an Eastman grad. He built my understanding not of the trumpet, but of like a rehearsal schedule. Not to say that any of the band people there, didn't do that. But he was one who's like, how could you possibly plan for a high school wind ensemble practice or brass quintet or helping a student with a solo and ensemble piece if you can't like prepare something yourself? So that was a big moment of like, oh, this is no longer just for fun. It is fun, but it was a moment of like, oh gosh, like this is going to be my job. So spent a lot of time there. Spent a lot of hours in the music building, as we all do. Was in the Husky Marching Band for 5 years. I was a drum major for two, section leader for one, and just a section member for the others. That changed my life in a way that I couldn't even put into words. I met my wife there. She's a drummer. She's an incredible percussionist. And even though the time that I was there was a little bit longer, because it was longer, I actually was able to spread out some of my coursework a little bit. So in ways that I saw some of my colleagues, a music degree we all kind of know is not really a 4-year degree, as much as they might want it to be, or that might be what we are able to afford. I was really fortunate that I was able to spread things out. So by the time I graduated and I was a student teaching, I was not feeling nearly as burnt out as some of my friends and my peers, which at the time it was like, oh gosh, I have to pay for another year of school. I got to figure this out. In the long haul, the way I operate, it worked out really well because I'm a high energy guy, and sometimes when you put a lot of things in a small place, it can get kind of overwhelming. So giving a little bit of time to like a little bit of space to grow, space to breathe. It gave me some more time to work on my primary. I picked up guitar during elementary education classes because they're like, you can do guitar or you can do piano, and I am not a piano person. So it was really nice because it was a big school with a small school feel. Had a lot of the resources, a lot of people that I ended up meeting on the drum corps circuit, and through that were also like NIU connections. So it was a really good time. I came to love DeKalb. There was a point in my life where I thought I would maybe live there for the rest of my time. And obviously life had different plans. So
Yeah. So I'm sure you have music students that go on and study music in college. And I'm sure they ask your advice as they do for all.
absolutely.
But when you talk to them, do you tell them, don't rush, that it's not a 4-year program and it's okay if you don't get out in 5 years or.
Yes, I do. I always try to come with the caveat of like also not making that feel more stressful. Because going in, a lot of times when people, students, families, whomever are choosing schools, yeah, they're looking at the degree program, but they're also looking at the cost. And when you add another year and a half or semester, it drives that cost up. So I also always try to tell people like, hey, like it is very possible to do in 4 if you're able to afford it. If life allows you to, if you have good scholarships, however it might work out. This also might allow you to explore things. NIU had an incredible steel band program and gamelan and all sorts of world music and jazz and all that stuff. So by having a little extra time, I was able to, and a couple of my peers were able to really dive into all the things that they had to offer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're smarter than I am because when I
I
was
don't know
your
about that.
you are because when I was your age, I'm not that much older than you, but I've got a few years experience on you. Earlier in my career, I would tell kids and parents, don't, 4 years is not a possibility. Just figure on the fact that you're going to be there for 5 years and maybe even a little bit more, and that's not a big deal. Well, now my son's music ed major at Murray State, and he's in his 5th year, and I'm thinking, oh my God, when do I get to stop paying for these classes? So I
I could only imagine. My dad has a sticker on his shelf at home that says, "My money and my son go to NIU." So
right.
that was a very real conversation.
Yeah, but he's doing well, and like you said, he was a little bit burnt out at the end of his 4th year, and now his 5th year is going to be a little bit more. He's going to have a little bit more time. He doesn't have to
Hmm.
march in the band. He doesn't have to play in all the ensembles that he played in before, even though he really loved playing in those. He's going to play in some of them, but now he gets to focus on just his senior recital and his student teaching. So it'll be hopefully a little bit easier year for him, and the year before he starts his career. So I think that'll be good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was actually able to pick up an English minor the semester before I student taught because I needed to stay a full-time student, all that. And originally, before I came to Waterloo, I really wanted to go back and get my master's degree in ed, and then do my thesis on the translation of the Arvin's book, the famous trumpet book. That obviously never ended up happening, but I got a minor in linguistics because I thought that was going to be the plan. So it that even opened up some doors. So it was a good thing that it happened. It worked out the way it should have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So, being a drummer myself, I've always been interested in DCI, but I've never I never auditioned and I never marched with anybody. You marched with one of the best corps around, with the Cavies for 4 years. So, could you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. So the Cavaliers was a life changing experience. It was unlike anything I'd ever done before. Take everything you think you know about marching band and flip it on its head. It taught me everything, not everything, but a lot of things about music that I had never considered. It taught in good and bad ways. Like, I met people, I was like, oh man, okay, I don't know if I would want to be an educator like that, or oh, like that, I love that idea. I'm going to take that concept, things like that. But it also taught me a lot about like life, and it really, really came to show that like the things in life that I thought were hard weren't actually that hard, and I was capable of a lot more than I realized. And that lesson in and of itself has carried me a long, long way. There was, I think, before I marched, so I was an age out or a rook out, so I marched my last year of eligibility in 2012, and before I marched, I was really, I knew what I was doing. I wasn't super certain, kind of like wishy washy, yeah, kind of how you are as you get close to the end of your degree program and like things are going to change in a big way. And I remember getting off of tour and having a much clearer idea of who I was, what I was capable of, and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. So beyond the music and touring the countryside and seeing the beautiful scenery of like Dothan, Alabama, I was also able to kind of really learn a lot about myself. So it was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Some of the connections that I made through that group, both in the Cavaliers and with other drum corps, have come to serve me through all of my job, all my career. I have two people on the marching band staff here at Waterloo who I didn't march with, but they marched shortly thereafter. So it's really, I mean, it's paid its dues in spades. People remark a lot how expensive it is, and it is expensive. Don't get me wrong, but it has paid itself off over and over every year of life. So
Would you say that's the biggest advantage of marching was the connections that you've made and the
yeah,
experience that you've had? Not really even the experience that you have, but the experience that those connections bring to you, like the way you can pull that experience into your career.
absolutely. It's kind of funny. I've joked. So I know drum corps people from all sorts of different groups now in the area since I've moved here. That was actually kind of one of the reasons I knew where Waterloo was. And so there have been times that we show up to like band competitions or I go to a conference and blah blah. And my own students are like, "Do you know everybody?" And
Yeah.
it's like, well, no, the music world is very small, but when you march with with any drum corps, top 12, open class, all age doesn't matter. The network expands so quickly, and you realize so quickly how many people are everywhere. So yeah, the networking and the ability to have anyone from basically any walk of life, and I can call and say, hey, I know you're down in Texas, and you guys, I haven't worked with an English horn in 7 years. Can you give me some tips? I know you have one. I heard that recording you posted on Facebook. And to have that at my disposal, along with interviewing for jobs when I was going through all that, it really has been incredible to have such a network to fall back on.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think is great, with you in particular, is you're very approachable and you're very friendly and you're very outgoing. So, like when we were at competitions together, everybody seems to go say hi to Zach. I mean, it's one of those things that did you see Zach today? I was like, yeah, yeah, we saw Zach. We talked. Yeah, it was great. So I mean,
That's
it's just
awesome. Thank you.
congratulations to have for having that personality.
Thank you.
It's a great thing to have as a teacher and an educator and things like that. Because I know your students are probably the same way as the adults are. They want to be around you. They want to talk to you and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, man. Thanks. We were talking like when we were talking the other day. I've had a lot of people do a lot of good things for me, whether it was at Waterloo when I was in high school, college, whatever I was doing. I feel very fortunate for that, and to like have gone through a program like I have. Like I won the geography lotto, like of where I was born. So I recognize that, and I just want to keep putting that out to folks. So I am glad that it is interpreted that way and seen that way.
Absolutely. So talk a little bit about your drill writing. We had a conversation. I didn't even know you wrote drill, and
Hmm.
we were setting up this interview, and you said, "Yeah, I'm finishing up some drill, and when I do that, we can have an interview." And I thought maybe you were writing drill for your own group, but you write for other people. And can you talk a little bit
Yes.
about?
Yeah. So I've been writing drill. Oh gosh, probably for close to 15 years. I started as like a high school band tech. I was always on the visual side. And, Cavaliers obviously have a very strong visual identity. So I kind of really got into that. Started drill designing when I was teaching back in Chicago with Lakes Community High School. The director there said, "Hey, he's like, I really like the way you look at things. Like, I know you'd be really new at this. I'd love to give you a chance to try it out." That's kind of where it all started. Fortunately, I've felt very fortunate to write for a lot of different groups. I'm not the fastest drill writer in the world, and I'm certainly not the most innovative. But I do like I know that I've done some things. I've done the drum corps thing. I watch a lot of band. I'm as we would call a junkie. I love it, and I want to give back, like I said before. So I actually generally only write for groups that I know, and I actually prefer to and like to write for groups that generally might not be able to like buy their own drill, right? So like a lot of those big schools, the Texas schools, whatever, they get custom everything, and that allows them pedagogically to write a show that's going to allow them to teach their students throughout the fall. And that's a huge thing that I do at Waterloo when we're designing is, yeah, like we want to do well. I'm competitive, like I'll admit that. But the show is an educational tool, and I don't want the kids to be like squeaky clean and good with it in the middle of September, because that means they're not learning for another month and a half now, or they're not learning anymore. So I want to help my friends and the folks in the area, be able to tailor to what they have. Oh, hey man, we've got 27 wins, 3 guard, and 1 kid who holds a drumstick. Like, can you help? Absolutely. Like, let's put you guys in a position to succeed, and then you charge whatever it costs, whatever they can. But that also allows them to succeed on the field. Maybe get a little bit more help there, and spend the money on things that like private lessons or something like that. So it is a fun thing to do. I do sometimes joke that I get stuck in Pyware purgatory, because it feels like I'm just like watching these dots move around the screen all day, every day for the last couple of weeks. So it is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a fun way to express myself creatively too. So there are a lot of reasons like I kind of like enjoy doing it.
Yeah, that's great. Let's talk a little bit about your program and your kids.
Okay.
So, you teach a lot of different things. Like I said, you have concert band and jazz band, wind ensemble, percussion, guitar, and music appreciation class. I think so.
Hmm.
I love to talk to directors that have all of that going on. Not that I don't like talking to the ones that are just doing the top band at a really big school. I like that as well, but I relate to the people that are teaching everything, that are the music person at the school. Um,
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that, and we all know it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort, but also talk a little bit about what you like about it.
So one of the things I really like about it is that it keeps my day fresh. So don't get me wrong. If somebody were to say, "Hey, Zach, you could teach 4 bands today, have 4 preps, and then go home and do marching band," that would, and there's a way that would be, enticing. I'd enjoy that. But sometimes it's really nice to go, all right, we had first hour concert band, we did the thing, here's my prep. Okay, now I have 2 guitar classes. I have to completely flip what I'm doing in my brain. I get to exercise a different musical muscle. And I get to, see different kids that I don't normally get to see. Not that I don't want to see my band kids. I love them all dearly. Hopefully some of them see this and they hear that. But I love them dearly, but it is nice to see other kids in the school, get to know other students in the school. So I like it for that reason a lot. I also just like the fact that, the day is predictable but different, right? So I start my day at the high school and I end at our fifth grade building. So about a third of my day, I teach fifth grade pull-out lessons. So it's cool to go from the kids, my seniors who are, looking at college, thinking about doing college marching band, maybe studying music. And then I get to go back to the beginning of the process and like make fart noises with like fifth grade trombone players who are just happy to make a noise. And there's just like there's different types of joy that are associated with that. So like the high school kids, they're kind of at the top of the mountain, if you will. So they're like performing and achieving and doing all the things at a high level. And then you get to see like what it was like, what I felt like when I was in fifth grade band, or what they felt when these kids come in the room and they just want to hit the drum as hard as they can. They want to blow that trombone and that clarinet and that trumpet as loud as they can. And there's just kind of like an unbridled joy about it. So it's a really refreshing way to do that. And so it feels awesome to be able to kind of see both sides of that with a little bit of extra flavor and seasoning in there with the guitar and the music appreciation classes.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, being a 48-year-old drummer, that feeling of hitting the drum as hard as you can, that never goes away. That's something you always like.
I believe that. I'm a trumpet player myself, so anytime I get to play something loud, I'm into it.
Absolutely. So having all of that responsibility, um, y- I know I've battled a couple of times in my career. There's a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, is all this worth it? Is it I'm taking so much time away from my family and I'm not seeing my kids and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Have you ever gone through any period of time where you thought this isn't going the way I thought it was going to go?
A couple times actually. Even as recently as about 4 years ago, I don't wanna say I was in a dark place, but I was not in a healthy place. Um, I finally decided to, go back and get some therapy. I like I mentioned earlier, I'm a band junkie, like, band was my personality, which is good to a point. But then you don't get very much time to yourself. And so less about the, oh gosh, I have to design the show next year. I have to plan guitar class and I have to give this final, all the things that are on our plates as music educators. I really struggled to find myself outside of the classroom. And it was really, really hard. There was a point where my wife came, I had, what would probably amount to like a panic or anxiety attack. My wife had to come get me from school. I took a half sick day. I just had to go home. It was not great, and it just felt like the walls were closing in. So through a lot of work with my therapist, who I've been now with for 4 years, and a lot of reflection of like, no, it's okay to be Zach and Mr. Smith. Those don't have to be the same person. That's actually made the work life balance thing a lot better. It has given me a new invigoration for teaching. The whole statistic of you make like half of people don't make it to year five. I feel like that also could be said about year like 10 or so, especially if you've changed jobs a couple times, which I have. So it was really tough. It was not a fun place to be in. It was not a fun feeling. It was like one of those like the smallest, silliest little thing. I would forget to, there was a time that I forgot to put the last number of the account number on a PO, and it got sent back. They're like, "Hey, can you just fill this out again and fix it?" And it was like the world was closing. And it's not a big deal. It wasn't a big deal. So it was really hard. So the work life balance stuff can be overwhelming. And I would recommend to anyone therapy. I can't to not to get on a soapbox of anything like that, but it has changed my life for the better, both in school and out. Um, and just, I really have started getting better about drawing a line in the sand and having like a boundary of like, yeah, no, so part of the reason I was finishing up drill this week was so that next week I could enjoy time with my wife. No, we're not thinking about school. I'm not thinking about marching band camp in a couple weeks, taking some time for myself. And so we've been a lot better that way because I've been able to have a little bit more of that balance because of all that work that I've gone through and done.
Yeah. And I think that's so important for young band directors, which, I hope that young band directors get to see these podcasts that I'm doing. That's really
Mhm.
the reason I'm doing it. I've got a son that, like I mentioned, is going to get into this career, and I want him to not suffer, like not really suffer, but not be challenged as much as I was.
Absolutely.
So maybe if these podcasts and interviews can give some advice to these young directors, I think it'd be great. But But that's great. That's great to mention that, sometimes the job does wear on you, and it's okay to
Absolutely.
have it doesn't demean you at all to have outside help to get over that hump or to get over that
Hmm.
hurdle. There's been a couple, like I said, there was a couple times in my career where I thought, man, I don't have time to do anything else. And you said it perfectly. You have to set boundaries and you have to set, what happens if you don't go back to the high school and unlock the door for the kid that forgot their trumpet? Is the world going to end? No, it's not. And there's
Uh-huh.
those are the type of boundaries you have to set. I think you said it
Yeah.
perfect.
Well, and it's hard because, as a young educator, you are sometimes almost conditioned to be like a yes man. You're just so grateful to have a job. I'll do that. I'll do this. I'll do that. And I mean, as an extroverted people pleaser myself, like I didn't want to let my kids down. I didn't want to let my students or my admin down, community, all that. I would have dreams that like I get the job opening email from the central office, and I would open the email, and my job would be on there because
Yeah.
I didn't fill out the PO or something. So like, it really does weigh on you. So if there was anything I could tell the younger version of me, it'd say, "Hey, it is okay to draw a boundary because if you can recharge, then you could do more when you're actually on the job." So
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. So let's talk a little bit about your kids now.
okay.
You guys do marching band, you do jazz band, you do, I'm sure you do pep band, although I haven't heard
Hmm.
the pep band. I think I've heard all the other bands. But what kind of extra stuff do you feel your program does that maybe some other program doesn't have or isn't lucky enough to have?
Well, I feel pretty fortunate that we have the curricular bands we do. I know a lot of things, a lot of places are, not, they're part of the school day, but they're at the end or like they're extra, what I'm talking about. So right now at the high school, we have our first hour concert band, we have jazz band. Both of those are classes, which is amazing. Makes a huge difference to have those classes running as like part of the school day versus after. Marching band is technically extracurricular; it's co-curricular here. So the kids can and do receive grades for the evening time and performances and all the stuff we do. In addition to that, we have a voluntary percussion ensemble. It's run primarily by our drumline coach and my wife, who's our like our keyboard specialist. They do that once a week in the off season, so like to November through the springtime. And we also have a wind ensemble. Wind ensemble is a combination of, hey, here's some harder lit. So if you want to, try something out, we can. And it's also we do a lot of movie and music stuff like that, and things that necessarily are maybe it allows me to do a little bit more of the like the direct concept teaching during our first hour class where all that kind of stuff, and it lets us have a little bit more freedom and fun with the programs that we have with the wind ensemble. And we do market it as like a wind ensemble, so one to a part, two in the winds maybe, just so that kids are able to develop that responsibility and that maturity of playing. Hey, if you don't play that part, like we need that seventh in the chord, and you're the only person playing it. So if you're not playing it, it's wrong. That has paid big dividends for us. And we also have currently it is a non-competitive. Hopefully, in the future, it will become a competitive winter guard. So our color guard coach comes in during the wintertime. We are very fortunate to have a stipend for them. And they perform at 3 or 4 basketball games. They do a couple clinics just as a way to keep our kids spinning throughout the year so that they're able to continue to refine their skills. And we've now had a couple of kids go off and actually end up marching WGI and drum corps, which is really cool.
Yeah. You do you live in Waterloo?
I do. I live 7 minutes away from school.
Yeah. So I see again on your Facebook, I see things that you post about the Waterloo community, which my family's
Hmm.
from. I don't know if you knew this, but my family's from Columbia. Like
Oh,
both
I
sides.
did not know that.
My mom's family and my dad's family are from Columbia, and I've got some people that live on Route 3 right in between Columbia and Waterloo. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
pretty familiar with the area, but you're always posting things about your community, your kids, like I've said, and again, it's always things that you're proud of. Can you talk
Hmm.
what are you most proud of about your community, your high school, and your kids, and does it all relate?
Oh, it absolutely relates. I think one of the things that I am most proud of is so we have a local municipal band here in Waterloo. It is a great outlet for playing. They play all summer, practice all winter. And I think this last winter, we were up to almost 20 eighth grade through senior students just in the high school or eighth grade alone that were playing with that group, which is unprecedented. You know, I don't know exactly what the situation was beforehand, but it wasn't something that happened. I think it might have just been schedule stuff. But we've really, really pushed to say, hey, you should go play with this. You get a little bit of money. It'll help you get better at band. It's a way to keep playing over the summer. So that's something I'm really, really proud of. And just the way that the community engages with and supports the program, not just like the band program, but the school in general. Coming from a big Chicago suburb, it is very different for me to walk into a grocery store and like have 8 people be like, "Oh, hi Zach, hi Zach, hi Zach." Like that's cool. But like when you live in like so Mount Prospect was, oh gosh, 56,000 people, and it was butted up against 8 other towns that were like, so there was, you could largely remain anonymous. And the way in which people support and are so vocally positive in the community, I can feel whether it's at our performances on stage or on the field show. Like our community preview show that we do at the end of band camp every year is one of the most attended events that we have all year. And it's open to the public. Come on in, sit in the stands. We do some basics, and we do the show twice of what we know. I mean, it's literally overwhelming sometimes to like look up, and the stands are 50, 60, 75% full for an August preview show. Like that does not happen everywhere. I know part of it, it's not all me. By gosh, it's not all me. I came into a really, healthy situation. There has been a history and tradition of musical excellence here that I feel very privileged to be a part of. And I just try to embrace that as much as I can. As we all know, like the marching band, or band program in general, but the marching band specifically is the thing that interfaces with the community and the public the most.
Yeah.
When we go to competitions, I talk on the bus and say, "Hey, have fun. Go meet some other people. Remember that you might be the only person that somebody ever meets from Waterloo, and it would be a shame if they went, oh gosh, that person was crazy. Like, Waterloo must be a mess. Like, not that we want to be putting out positive. So, it's just it's hard to pinpoint it to something specific, but it is a feeling of support that I have seldom felt other places. And that's not to say that there was no support at the places I've been, but it is truly like over the top here. It's really something to behold.
Yeah. So if you had a student, if I surprised you with this, just picked a student out of your band and said, "Hey, now we're going to talk to this student," what do you think they would say about you, or what would you hope they would say about you?
Well, in the same way that that we talk about how our students are a reflection of the person in front of them, they're probably going to be pretty boisterous. I'd hope that they'd say that I'm funny. I'm pretty sarcastic. I can I can go back and forth with the best of them. My rehearsals are kind of noisy. I don't necessarily have a huge problem with, hey, if I'm working with the clarinets, it's okay if the trumpets chat. Just don't like be such a nuisance that I can't get anything done. And I would hope, and I'm pretty sure they would say that I'm very passionate. There's a lot of passion that goes into our program. I have had friends, colleagues, instances, other clinicians come in, and like they will come to me afterwards and say, "Yeah, man, that's your band." That's just like that's like a 80 acts in the room. They're just they're excited about band. They're excited to be here. They'll do whatever you need. They might chat a little bit while they're doing it, but they are all in. So I would hope, and I do believe in my heart of hearts that they would probably say the same thing.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. So I see you a lot at Midwest. I see you a
Mhm.
lot at Illinois Music Educators Convention. Your jazz band was just chosen to perform in January. So can you talk a little bit about that audition process and what you guys did to prepare for that?
Absolutely. So we started going up to Chicago for the Jazz and Meadow Festival. I thought about doing UMSL and all the ones that are closer to us. But I wanted to kind of make it like a special thing for the kids. We go up the day before, we get a hotel, we go down, explore the city. So it's like a mini trip as well. And that exposing them to some of those groups that are like way outside of our realm of understanding. I always want to make sure that we are expanding the Waterloo bubble, not just staying in it. So one of the big reasons of going up there is like it's obviously it's some like I performed there growing up, for a Chicago kid myself. But it's really cool to see the way Jazz in the Meadows specifically has changed over the years. It has become a lot more educational, and I have had kids since the first year we went up there get done with that festival and go, man, like I want to play like that, and that's like that light bulb moment of like, yes, like I've said largely the same thing to you for the last 3 years, but now someone else did it, so you're gonna listen, and that's fine. However you get there. So that was kind of the genesis. I always, every time we perform anything anywhere, I do have a recording device set up, largely for archival purposes. But I have actually I saw your thing at Midwest said just submit. Don't worry about if you can or can't, just submit, and that kind of changed my approach on things. So I started recording us pretty frequently. And this year I told the kids like, hey, for concert band we do all these recordings. We've also submitted to perform at IMEC. We've submitted tapes for Superstate, which has been a really really great process to go through. It's very reflective. It's cool to we have somebody come in professionally record the kids and talk to them about that and how he does it. And it's been a really cool experience to just see how that's elevated the concert band. So I figured, hey, why not the jazz band too? So we took our recordings from, it was one recording from our winter concert in February, and then one recording from our performance at Jazz in the Meadows. So two songs total. That's a pretty straightforward application process. It's included biography, letters of recommendation from other IMEA members. Then you submit, and then you hear back at the end of May. So I feel very fortunate. I know that there are not many groups, period, that are selected. And having gone through the process for a couple years before this, I also understand that not everyone is selected. So it is really really exciting. I think, and I'd have to double check this and ask some of my colleagues and prior coworkers, but I believe this is the first time a Waterloo ensemble has been selected for the event, which is a huge point of pride both for myself and for the students. I don't think they quite understand yet what it entails. I tried to be like, hey, like you're playing with the best of the best, and everybody in the crowd is going to know what you're supposed to sound like, and they will celebrate you if you do. So it's going to be a really cool experience. I'm really excited. I'm really nervous. I'm going to be so straightforward and honest with you. I have probably listened to 200 jazz charts this summer of like, I got to pick some lit, man. Oh, and then I was like, oh, I should have a guest come in. Who am I going to come have play? So it has added a layer of work, which has been fine. It's been good. It is exciting. It's nerve wracking. It's going to be a great experience. I'm really excited.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so you mentioned your kids, you try to explain to them what it's going to be like, and you hope that they get it. They don't. They don't
No,
until they go through it. And then afterwards they're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, this was exactly like you explained it, and now we get it." And now they'll be hungry for more, and it's just such a
right.
cool experience, and I'm so glad that you guys are going to get to do it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was really funny. So we went to Jasmine Meadows our first year, and we did fine. You get a score sheet and a rubric back, and it was what I expected. But it's still it's like, oh man, okay, we're new on the scene here. We're doing something we haven't done. We're growing from it. Having kids in the band that came with us last year and did the same performance, new music, and all that. Um, it was one of those moments that are like, well, this is so much okay. This makes sense now. We know what to expect. It was really cool. So I can't recommend enough to get your ensembles, not you specifically, but anyone who may be listening, to get outside of your normal bubble. I try to mix it up with marching band competitions as much as I can and afford the buses to get to them. And this is a way that we're doing that, trying to get outside of Monroe County and just you know see what other people are doing and also show people what we're up to.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be great for you guys, and it's going to be great for your program. Not only your jazz program, it'll be great for those kids, but also everybody else that gets to see them go through that process. And your program's really going to grow and benefit from it. And I can't wait to see the fruit of that labor. It's going to be great for you.
Thanks, man. It's going to be a blast. I'm really excited.
So we've got time for some rapid fire questions. You
Okay.
ready? for some
Yep.
silly, stupid questions, and you just
Let's
tell me
do
what
it.
you think. All right. So, what's your favorite band piece?
Concert band.
Yeah, concert band. Yep.
Ooh. Probably the Hindeman Symphony in B flat.
Yep. Okay. What's your favorite marching show you've ever seen?
Ooh, my favorite marching show is the Cavalier Spin Cycle. I
Yeah.
think that is the coolest thing. The cat's pajamas.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Coffee or energy drinks?
Coffee. I'm a dirty bean water addict.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't get I don't get the energy drinks. I'm not. They make me shake, and I just don't like them.
Yes. Every
Uh,
once in a while, I'll get a Red Bull just because those like scratch and itch from like when I was like 19. But by and large, coffee.
all right. Favorite place you've traveled?
Ooh, it's a tie between uh Ireland and Tokyo. So
Okay.
the all of Ireland and then the city of Tokyo.
And you went to Ireland not too long ago, right? It wasn't it
Yeah.
just less than a year ago?
Last Thanksgiving break, I took a personal day. We had no marching band commitments for any of the festival parades. So we're like, let's get out of here. Let's do something. So,
That's cool. Okay, and I know you're a hockey fan. Who's your favorite hockey player?
ooh, it's gotta be, and this may be controversial as a Blackhawks fan. I know, I'm sorry, you can add booze later. Duncan Keith is my favorite Blackhawks player of all time. Pavel Datsuk, formerly of the Red Wings, the Dead Things. That man, I hated him. He was like a specter in my dreams, and the things that he did with the puck on a stick were just unbelievable.
Yeah. Jeremy Roenick was that guy for me. I hated him whenever, as a Blues fan, I hated watching that guy. I hated being just I just hated him. But he was really good. So, uh,
Yeah.
if you weren't teaching band, what would you be doing?
Ooh. I probably would be running a small craft brewery because that's something I do with my free time is I make craft beer.
Yeah, and I got to try some of that. So, yeah, I've noticed that too. I
I'll
love
bottle some, I'll drop it off.
All right. And then, if you had one piece of advice to give to new band directors, what would it be?
Ooh, I mean, we kind of talked on it earlier of having boundaries and not feeling guilty for it. Do the thing, do it the best you can, but do it on the time that you have. You don't have to do it all the time.
Yeah, that's great advice, and it's something that all of us learn at some point, and some of us learn it too late, and some of us, are learning it younger. So that's great. That's
Right.
I'm hopeful that band directors listen to that advice. Well, Zach, I really appreciate agreeing to do this interview. It's been awesome.
Absolutely.
Good luck on your marching season. Good luck on your school year, and also good luck at your ILMEA performance. I think I can't wait to see you guys.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Good luck to you on everything too. I'm excited to see you. I'm sure we'll see you at a couple shows this fall, and I'll see you in Carbondale for IMEA District 6 this year.
Absolutely. Cool. And thank you to our listeners of Small Town Sound. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a review, and share this episode with other music directors. You can also follow Small Town Sound on social media for upcoming guests and episode releases and the stories from band parents across the country. Until next time, keep making great music. Keep investing in your students, and remember that some of the biggest sounds come from the smallest towns. See you later.